5 years ago today that the tailing pond collapsed at the Mount Polley Mine northwest of Williams Lake. The breach sent 24 million cubic meters of contaminated mine waste downstream into Quesnel Lake. Despite it being one of the largest environmental disasters in BC history, the company which owns the mine, Imperial Metals, hasn't been charged or paid anything in fines. That is unbelievable. Joining us with more on this story is Joe Foy with the Wilderness Committee. Thank you so much for being here. So, it's been 5 years, and to the day, where are things at this right now?
Well, we've been waiting to see charges laid. The Federal Ministry of Environment, the Federal Ministry of Fisheries, and the provincial authorities have worked together to provide a package to give to the federal prosecutors, and we've been waiting to see those charges laid. And we're right on deadline now, and no charges have been laid. So that's a serious problem.
Mm-hmm. Why is it taking so long? Any indication?
Don't know why it's been taking so long. The province failed to lay charges by their 3-year deadline. Their excuse was we had a new provincial government, and they were not able to get together their package fast enough. Now the federal government have come up against their 5-year deadline to lay these charges. And we've heard no explanation. They've been very tight-lipped as we've come up to the deadline, and people deserve better than this.
Has the company faced any kind of punishment at all?
None. Now, the company has spent money in doing cleanup activity on Hazeltine Creek, where this massive tailings breach came roaring through that creek and dumping into Quesnel Lake. But to date, no fines have been levied against the company. That sends a very bad message to the rest of the BC mining industry, which needs to clean up its act. It also sends quite a scary message to the people of British Columbia, to the First Nations, but also to our neighbors in the U.S., where a lot of our rivers flow into the U.S., and it looks like we don't control our mining industry.
What is the main concern with what is going into the lake and then spreading out into the creeks, etc.?
Well, these are tailings, a massive amount of tailings, and so that contains various metals. If those metals begin to oxidize, then we've got a real problem with acid production. In addition, metals like copper, even in small amounts, mess up salmon's, for instance, salmon ability to navigate. Sometimes that Quesnel Lake produces 1 out of every 4 Fraser River sockeye. So this dump has landed right into a key salmon resource of the Fraser River.
And there's more continuing to be dumped in. That hasn't stopped.
The company has gotten a permit to dump millions of liters of water per day from the Mount Polley Mine, and they've recently applied for an exemption to remove copper from that water. And as I've said, that's very, very concerning. So, it feels like, it looks like it is that this big mining company seems to be out of control or oversight of our provincial or federal governments, and that's a terrible situation for all of the people that live here and the wildlife and the environment.
The deadline passes tonight, and no charges are filed by the federal government. Where do you see this going? Is it over then? Can you do anything else?
It's not over. It's not going to be over for a long, long time. So first of all, we want to see, we believe we're owed to see the package that was handed to the prosecutors. We want an explanation of why charges were not laid. And second of all, there can be additional charges laid by federal fisheries and fines even past this deadline. So we want to see the entire package, and we want to see the federal government continue to work to lay charges.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. Joe Foy with the Wilderness Committee. Thank you so much.